As Victoria battles this second wave, how hard has it been for the industry to once again have to shut down?
It's devastating for the industry. There's just this, impending doom that surrounds everybody. Nobody's got any certainty about what tomorrow holds, when we'll be able to trade again, and what the landscape will look like when we are allowed to trade.
Well, just on that, I mean, how can restaurants and the dining scene as a whole really recover from this?
Well, that's the question. I mean, we're all asking ourselves that all the time. I mean, how do we recover? Well, there's so many uncertainties. I mean, what's the economy going to be like at the end of this? Are consumers going to be allowed to dine? Are we going to still have restriction in our restaurants? Are people going to want to gather in packs? There's so many different things that we are out of our control at the moment. That it's too hard to understand.
And as an owner, how are you and others really coping during what's been two lots of a really bad time?
Well, I think in all industries, there's opportunity within crisis. I mean, this is no doubt the biggest crisis we've ever faced, hopefully we'll ever face. But it doesn't mean you just have to stick your head in the sand and just wait for it to blow over. You can approach this head on. I've established a platform called Providoor, which is an online marketplace for Melbourne's premium restaurants, and we'll be spreading out into Sydney in the coming weeks. And basically, we're providing new revenue streams for restaurants to thrive through this time, and hopefully create new revenue streams for the future. But if you're just reliant on traditional business, it's going to be a long, hard slog.
We know that the JobKeeper subsidy has been in place and extended, but it looks a bit differently when it is extended post-September. From your perspective, do you think that has been a saving grace in the industry?
Oh, 100%. I mean, unemployment numbers would be through the roof if we haven't had JobKeeper. A lot of my staff wouldn't be able to, feed their kids, get through their week. We wouldn't be able to employ the visa staff that we're employing now that aren't being covered by JobKeeper. I mean, there's a large section of the hospitality industry that's not covered. These are crucial staff who we rely on. These are people who have been here for several years on visas and are paying tax and helping us grow our skill base. And they've had, the government's turned their back on them. So it would no doubt have the JobKeeper's been, not just a saving grace, but the only thing that's propping up our industry.
And Shane, as a chef, how has it impacted the dishes that you're putting out? Have you had to change and adapt your menu?
Yeah, look, I mean, as a chef, you always look to creativity to help, heal the pain and try to, create some sense of normality. But, it's so hard to be creative when you just got so many other weights on your back. I mean, we've got, 100 plus staff throughout my group that we're trying to keep motivated. Mental health is still a thing, just because that we're in the middle of a pandemic doesn't mean that all the other things that we worried about prior to the pandemic have just slowly going away. I mean, if anything, mental health is more important now. But to be honest, I mean, creativity is not on the forefront of my agenda at the moment. It's about finding ways to create revenue for the long term, making sure that we're doing the right things now, that we can steer through whatever's in front of us, and that we can find ways to thrive.
We don't know when business will be allowed to reopen. As you said, the government had put a tentative date for a couple of weeks' time, but now that looks increasingly unlikely. What do you think that the industry will look like when you are able to trade again?
That's the million-dollar question. What will it look like? I think it's not going to look great. We're going to be in an environment where everybody's going to be rushing to open their doors again, opening in limited capacity. As JobKeeper starts to decrease, in regards to the sum of which people are going to be remunerated, it's going to put more hardship out in the public. I mean, from 1,500 to 1,200 is a big jump. So have to pay tax out of that. So, look, it's dire. I think that the most important thing that we should be focusing on now is creating jobs and enabling employers to create jobs, making sure there's incentives for them, that there's reform in regards to legislation with tax reform and employment legislation, and doing as much as we can for the wider Australian public to find work, and for those who can employ to employ as many people as they can.
And we know, of course, as I said in the introduction, Melbourne is always known as that culinary capital of Australia. You're hopeful that eventually it can get back to that?
I think Melbourne will always be the culinary capital of Australia. There's always been a bitter rivalry between the states, but I mean, it's fun as well. I mean, I've got nothing but love for the other states, and I think that Sydney, as a proud Melburnian, it hurts me to say that Sydney's got a really dynamic and diverse food scene. I think there's some brilliant cooks coming out of there, and especially out of Brizzy at the moment and Adelaide. But I think that the best thing that can come out of this pandemic is new ways to do things, new ways to think, new ways to thrive. I mean, I think what we've done with Providoor, we're helping 35 plus restaurants in Melbourne at the moment produce significant amounts of revenue. I mean, I get emails from them every morning saying how grateful they are that we've put forward this opportunity, and I really can't wait to take it into Sydney, Brisbane and Adelaide to give restaurants there an opportunity as well.
Absolutely. Well, it's a difficult time now, but hopefully the industry will get back on its feet eventually. Delia, thank you so much for your insights and for joining me this afternoon.